Hi, folks. Welcome to the Daily Wrap. Robert Quigley here on the road to the White House. Today, we're going to cover four topics, basically. The first one is going to be the fun topic, and then we're going to follow it up with two somewhat serious topics. One is going to include a bombshell insight, so I would stick around for that or come back to it if you're too busy. And then, of course, and finally, we're going to give an update on our comedy campaign tour. But let's start the evening. The fun part of the live stream is our raffle in our fundraising program. I think we're going to set a record here, folks. We have put together by far the biggest and best raffle known to humans. I'm being a bit serious, aren't I? A bit exaggerating, maybe. But seriously, if you call the Guinness Book of World Records, we will probably win the prize for absolutely the biggest political raffle ever to have been held in history. So, what am I talking about, folks? Well, we have put together a $15.5 million prize raffle. And let me go through the categories of prizes real fast. Everything that I'm talking about is on the website. So you can go there for details. You can go there to buy the raffle tickets. And we divided it up by category. Raffle tickets are $5 each. Cumulatively, like I said, all of the prizes equal about $15.5 million. And some of them are big and some of them are yummy. So let's go through the 18 categories quickly, and then we will move on to some more serious topics of the evening. Well, the first raffle prize, by far the biggest and best, will be a mortgage payoff. The person who wins one of the two grand prizes will get their mortgage paid off up to $750,000. The raffle's going to the raffle's going to run for 2 years. The drawing is going to be January 2nd, 2025. That's when the lucky winner will know whether or not they've won that mortgage payoff for $750,000. The second big grand prize in the raffle is going to be a free house valued at $750,000. The house is going to be located in my neighborhood here in the Brooklyn Catholic University area of Washington, D.C. That's just the quirky part of being the guy who put together the program. So if you win that, then of course you're moving here unless you already live in the area. But that's going to be a free house for that lucky winner up to $750,000. Our next category of prizes are Teslas. We're going to give away 15 brand new 2025 Tesla Model 3s. Each one of those prizes is worth about $50,000 each. The current base model of a Tesla 3 is about $40,000, so you've got plenty of room there to fit out the trim that you want for that car. But we're giving away 15 free Teslas as part of the raffle. In addition to that, we are giving away 6 Class A motorhomes. Each motorhome has a value of about $150,000. And again, we don't care which brand, we don't care the configuration, but that's 6 $150,000 prizes for a Class A motorhome. The next category of raffle prizes will be 8 alternative energy packages for your home. In order to qualify, you have to actually own your home or be paying a mortgage on your home, and it's worth $125,000 each. Basically, what that buys is a complete solar panel, wind turbine, battery power pack, a roof water collection system, and all of the bells and whistles and contractors and wires and connectors that go along with putting that system together. Such an alternative energy system will mean you are grid free. You would be selling electricity to your electric company every month, and you would never have another electric bill as long as you lived in the house. So it's an amazing benefit. But we're going to give away 8 of those in our raffle. Our next category of raffle prizes will be new business grants. We're giving away four $250,000 business grants. We've got some criteria as to how we figure out which businesses are viable. The details are on the website. But if you're the lucky raffle winner, I'm sure we can put together, with your assistance, a winning a business plan, and you'll be able to launch yourself in business with that $250,000. Okay, the next raffle prize, we're giving away 10 global backpacking tours, and those are worth $100,000 each. The next raffle category is going to be 10 global cruises, and those will be worth $100,000 each. Now, with these amounts of money, you can take your sweetheart with you or your partner. It doesn't matter, but those are the raffle prizes. The next category is essentially a New York Stock Exchange style financial trading desk. That's a fancy way of saying a pretty robust collection of computer equipment. If you want to see a picture of it, look on the website. You'll see a picture of my New York style financial trading desk and some details. And you too can have one of those. And those are valued at $10,000. The next category of raffle prizes will be the 100 Apple packages. Now, for the lucky winners here, you're going to get an iPhone, an iPad, and an iMac. They're worth $4,000 each, and we call those our Apple packages. Now the next category of raffle prizes are going to be big gift cards, and they're going to be 1,000 each of these prizes, and they're going to be worth $1,000. So we're going to be giving away 1,000 Amazon gift cards, 1,000 Visa gift cards, 1,000 Walmart gift cards, and like I say, each one of those are worth $1,000 each. My favorite restaurant in the whole wide world is Cracker Barrel. So we are giving away 2,000 Cracker Barrel gift cards, and those are worth $500 each. Believe me, you can have plenty of sumptuous meals with that $500. In addition to that, our favorite coffee shop on the whole big wide world is Starbucks. We are giving away 4,000 Starbucks gift cards, and they're worth $250 each. Now, of course, because of recent inflation, those cups of coffee are becoming more expensive, but $250 will still buy you a lot of cups of coffee and pastries too. So we're giving away 4,000 of those. And finally, for the pizza lovers in the country, or in the world for that matter, we're giving away 10,000 Papa John's gift cards. They're worth $100 each. So that'll get you 4 or 5 really large pizzas, and that'll be great for you and the family. Now, finally, we've got two other categories of raffle prizes. One of them, which is my favorite because I very much am in support of bettering oneself in education, we will be giving away 20 full scholarships for graduate degrees at the University of Cambridge. In order to qualify for this, you, of course, have to be admitted to the University of Cambridge. So study hard, do your homework, answer all those test questions properly, grab yourself a couple of good recommendations, and apply to the University of Cambridge. You're likely to get accepted. And then turn to me if you're a lucky lottery winner, and we will pay your tuition. Each one of those scholarships are worth $50,000, and that is for a graduate master's degree at the University of Cambridge, my alma mater. And finally, we have an inauguration raffle, and one lucky family somewhere in America will win the right to be my personal guest at the 2025 swearing-in ceremony, and you'll be having lunch with me afterwards in the White House, along with the First Lady and your family. So there you have it, folks. Again, the raffle tickets are $5 each, a total of $15.5 million in prizes. You can find all the details on the campaign website, robertquigleyforpresident.com. And I hope and wish you all the best of luck. And I hope you win. And I hope we have a photo opportunity between you and me as you win these prizes. Okay, so now let's turn to a more serious topic of today's live stream. I want to talk about two inherent structural impediments that's causing the country a huge amount of harm, and we must reform these problems when we get to the White House. Everybody knows and has known for decades that the government is broken. It's broken beyond belief. We've reached a point in time where if we don't solve these problems, the problems are going to solve us in not positive ways. So, what's the first problem I'm talking about? Folks, 8 to 10% of the US population donates to political candidates and political campaigns. It's been like that for many, many decades. What does it mean? It means 90% of the population is not supporting candidates or campaigns. It means that we have a status quo. It means we have an entrenched system. Out of the 10% that do donate to campaigns, essentially 1 or 2 or 3% of these folks are the ones financing the campaigns. And though that small number of Americans have succeeded in our system, therefore they think that there's nothing wrong with the system. They did incredibly well, and therefore they are doing everything they can to perpetuate the system. Well, that perpetuation of the current system really means stalemate in government solving problems, gridlock in government solving problems. It means the government cannot do its job properly and take care of its citizens. Let's go a little bit deeper. On top of the donation problem, we have a voter non participation problem. We all know that more than 50% of adults do not participate in voting at all. They're not even registered to vote. Sure, they claim to be independents, so you should be on my side, but they're not participating. And that means it's easier for a small number of Americans to entrench themselves in the system and live at the expense of everybody else. Let's go one step further. Gerrymandering. We all know what gerrymandering means. If you look at the congressional districts across the country, for example, we see lines drawn that make absolutely no sense in any rational, productive, problem solving manner, unless you look at it from the point of view of somebody trying to create and protect a job. So, Democrats have gone through the country and carved out democratic jobs for themselves. Republicans have done exactly the same thing. Result, more stalemate, more status quo. We can't solve problems because the Democrats and the Republicans have essentially ruined the United States of America with this stalemate. That's the problem, folks. Let's look at this a little bit deeper because we have to do something about it when I get to the White House. We have disengaged citizens. We have citizens that don't donate to campaigns. We have gerrymandering, like I've just described. And on top of all of this, we have a Supreme Court, specifically, in a judicial system generally, that was given the power by our forefathers to hold laws invalid in this country. When I get to the White House, we're going to cut that judicial power down. We're going to eliminate the court, all courts' ability to overrule properly passed laws in the United States. When the majority of the population that votes has spoken, then that is the law of the land. We have judges sitting in courts up and down the hierarchy of courts that have basically lived in a law library their entire lives. They have not operated businesses. They have not met payrolls. They have not farmed land. They have not dealt with all of the issues that everyday ordinary Americans must face every minute of their life. They lived in an ivory tower, divorced from the realities of everybody's lives, and they were given the power to basically put a brake on everything that needs to be done to solve America's problems. Let me just give you a couple of examples. One, student loans. Oh my God, we have a very small percentage of the population living generously off the backs of struggling students all across America that have tried to better themselves. This is not right. When I get to the White House, I will instruct the education department to accept every legitimate hardship application. We will make student loans bankruptable as they were in the very beginning. because that is the way we can do the most good for the most people across society. We're not going to tolerate the situation where small numbers of people live on the backs of everybody else. Those days are coming to an end. One other comical issue here, we've seen in these recent elections, Democrats very hilariously uh, putting money into the pockets of Republican candidates. Why in the world would they do such a thing? Well, they put the money into the pockets of dumb Republican candidates, of Republican candidates that thought it was okay to go around their districts talking about conspiracy theories, a January 6th election that was stolen, invalid, and all the rest of the nonsense that the Trump team spewed out across the country at the end of his nonsense presidency. And of course, they did that because they knew that independents were not going to support these crazy right-wing Republicans, and therefore the Democrats thought they had a much better chance of taking those seats if they were to put up weak candidates. Folks, this is gaming the electoral system. We need much larger numbers of voter participation. We need everybody focused on solving some big problems. I'm going to talk about a couple in a minute, and we're going to get to that bombshell insight. But this is just an example of what I'm talking about with the stalemate and dividing up the country and trying to protect the jobs of the politicians. All right, so let's move on. Unsolved big problems. Well, you've heard me say it 100 times. I'm going to say it again, but the bombshell issue is coming just in a second. Climate change, climate impacts are driving us in the direction of extinction. The earth is burning. Look at your daily and nightly news. Farming land, water tables under the ground, available fresh water is drying up, folks. Hundreds of millions of people are starving. Already, hundreds of millions of people are on the move across the planet because the places that they live and call home are no longer capable of supporting human populations. Now, bombshell insight here, guys. Did you ever stop and think for 1 second that not only the human body, but all animals on this planet cannot live without oxygen? This is a biological chemical fact. If you don't believe me? Google it. Well, think about the Earth's atmosphere for just a moment. We came into this planet, we came into our current state of existence with a certain ratio, a certain percentage of the air that we breathe being made up of oxygen, of hydrogen, of helium, of nitrogen, of carbon dioxide, for example. Did anyone ever stop and think what happens when we pump more CO2 into the atmosphere? We pump more methane into the atmosphere. When we destroy more vegetation, plants and trees that put oxygen into the atmosphere. What happens if we actually decrease the amount of available oxygen in the atmosphere because we filled it up with so many other gases? Well, folks, the answer is pretty darn obvious. We are suffocating ourselves. How much longer will it be before we have a mass die off across the planet with not only humans, but all animals? We must have oxygen in our bodies to live. Now, we're not literally taking oxygen out of the atmosphere, but we are pumping so many other chemicals into the atmosphere that the end result is we are, in fact, taking oxygen out of the atmosphere. We need the oxygen to live. Our bodies need the oxygen to survive. And we are essentially killing ourselves by taking oxygen out of the atmosphere by decreasing its availability in terms of ratios, proportions, percentages. We have to solve this problem. How do we solve the problem? Well, if you listen to my videos, you know I'm going to build 1,000 CO2 scrubbers. You know these scrubbers are going to take methane out of the atmosphere. They're going to take CO2 out of the atmosphere. We need to rewild the planet. We need to reforest and revegetate the planet. We need to take water out of the ocean, desalinate it, and we need to fill up rivers and streams. Of course, the iconic examples in America are, Lake Mead and Lake Powell, the Colorado River. But you take Utah's Salt Lake, you take the entire southwestern part of the United States and the western part of the United States, we must re-terraform the country. If we look at the water tables all across America, and let me just use Arizona as an example here, because it's been in the news in the last 2 weeks. Many Arizona farmers will tell you, and just check recent news if you don't believe the words I'm about to say, that 20 or 30 years ago, when they started their farming operations, the water table underneath their feet was about 100 feet down. So they dug a hole in the ground 100 feet. They had all the water that they needed. Today, that same water well and all of the water wells around Arizona and around the country for that matter, but that they've dropped to different levels. But in the case of Arizona, they've dropped 500 feet. Okay, so the water table below the ground went from 100 feet to 500 feet. And the recent news was one of these farmers that I'm alluding to dropped the camera down to the bottom of his well. And he's done this pretty consistently over the last 20 or 30 years. And what he sees today is a running river, a running stream. Water is moving basically. Whereas before, it was just a still huge underground reservoir of water. What's happening? There's such a demand on the water under the ground that it's actually pulling it as though it were a river. Folks, this is a problem. We are very quickly depleting these critical life necessities all around us: the air, the water. And I'm using Arizona as an example, but let me assure you, all across America, the water tables are dropping, and they're dropping drastically. So the programs that I'm talking about, desalination plants, CO2 and methane scrubbers, reforestation, rewilding, etc. We need to take old dams down. We need to re-terraform our own country. We need to re-terraform our own planet. These things have to happen. Now, I'm putting these big issues on the table, and I'm asking the implicit question here is, why in the world has not the United States government been able to solve these problems before now? Well, the answer is everything I talked about earlier about the entrenched status quo. We must degrowth. We must move the society away from thinking everything has to be more and better and more and more and more. No, we must now change our mindsets to, let's call it, a Japanese minimalist lifestyle. Things have to be less, less, and less. We need to put less pressure on the environment, less pressure on the economy. We need to do things in a more calm, smart way. Some of the other problems that result from this entrenched status quo, which is stalemate. Just talking to a neighbor today in my daily dog walk. In his case, is very typical all across America. He's a disabled guy, very badly injured, got pins in his back, uh, can barely get out and walk around. His daily exercise is the dog walk, and it's only up and down the block, so it's not even much to speak of. But he's injured and he needs crutches and he can't get around so well, but he does his best. He applied for disability. Most disability applications, probably in the order of like 98, 99% of them, are rejected as a matter of status, as a matter of routine. And the reason why is because the government has taken the attitude that everybody who files a disability application is not, in fact, disability. They're cheating. If they can walk their dog 100 feet, oh, they must be able to go to work and work a full time job or even work a part time job. This is one of the details that affects millions of Americans. And it's because we have this entrenched government that's in stalemate, that's not solving the problems that's facing Americans. So, what's the general answer to, and the easy answer to everything I'm talking about here? Elect me your president. Let's put independence in Congress. Let's put independence in the Senate. And let's eliminate these extremes and bring problem solvers to Washington, D.C., so we can solve these big problems. Now, finally, folks, in terms of the big issues tonight, I want to talk about the news because this is a major problem and it's affecting so many people's lives, whether they realize it or not. Uh, the world of the independent news anchor, the news broadcast, put the facts on the table and let the people make their own decisions does not exist anymore. And we all know it in our hearts that this is the case. But the First Amendment of the United States Constitution guarantees freedom of speech and it guarantees freedom of the press. Our founders knew very well that if the voters were not educated, if they were not given all the facts, that the country was in trouble. Well, this is an offshoot of the stalemate system that we have because the parties that are controlling the government around the country, the political levers in the country, do not want an educated populace because if they had an educated populace, they could not get away with the things that they do. News is a big part of that. Everybody knows that Fox News, I'm not really criticizing the news organizations, but they are iconic examples. Fox News is to the far right, CNN is to the far left. Most news organizations are to the far left. The result of being in these extreme camps is we cannot get that independent news. We get half truths, we get fake news, we get lies. This part of Donald Trump's campaign against the news media organizations, all of them, is correct. He was not wrong about that. We have lost that critical part of the American society, which is reliable, uh, um, should I say, smart reliance on the news organizations because it's just not there anymore. Now, let me give you a couple examples of what I'm talking about just to highlight the point. And I'm pulling this from my own experience and the campaign experience. So, the Robert Quigley for President campaign, we decided to establish a call center, 500 call center workers. That's a pretty good, chunk of economic benefit for wherever we put these 500 call center workers, right? So we did. I'm from Kentucky, as you guys will know, and we know that Eastern Kentucky is a very poor part of the country. And I thought, well, gee, we'll put 500 call center workers over in Eastern Kentucky. It's an easy job. You talk to people all day, and they certainly need the economic benefit. They certainly need the jobs. So I called up the local government, let's call it Clay County, Kentucky, and I called up the local newspaper and the local radio stations and said, "Hey, we're thinking about putting a 500-person call center in your community. Would you please inform the local population, number one, that I'm running for president, and number two, that we're going to create 500 jobs for your community?" Lo and behold, you'll never guess what happened. The local newspaper, the local radio stations, every one of them stuck a hand out. They were willing to do that if I was willing to buy an ad from them. They tried to tell us that putting 500 jobs in their local community was not news, not at all. That me being from Kentucky, the hometown kid basically, was not news, not at all. But if I was willing to pay them hundreds of dollars for an ad or $1,000 ad, that they would very gladly put me on the front page of their newspaper. They'd make me the center of their story, and they would tell their local population that they had a chance at 500 jobs. No, they were not willing to do any of that unless they were paid. Now, this is not an isolated situation, folks, because we contacted thousands of newspapers across the country. Many of them have become digital in nature, but they do still exist in some form or the other. We contacted thousands of radio stations. We contacted thousands of local TV stations. Without fail, 99% of them asked for money for an ad. So let me explain in a bigger picture. What the news organizations have done across America is they basically said to themselves, nothing goes over our media, whether it's print or air or cable or internet, unless somebody pays them money. Folks, they have abdicated their First Amendment responsibilities to report the news. Not only that, in the world of social media, we're talking about like Facebook, we're talking about LinkedIn, we're talking about YouTube, we're talking about Twitter, we're talking about Instagram, and all the others. Okay. They have introduced this world of censorship. This is contrary to the values that America holds true. America was built on a marketplace of free ideas. There's a saying in America that goes back to the beginning of American history. I may not agree with everything you say. I may not agree with how you say it, but I will die for your right to say it. That was our marketplace of free ideas. That is our First Amendment in a nutshell. What we have today is we have censorship. We have folks trying to create both physical and digital public squares, but yet they are trying to make gazillions of dollars from advertisers to operate in these squares. I'm sorry, folks, I got bad news for you. We cannot create a perfect public square in the real world. We cannot do it in the digital world. But there are two things that are taboo. One, of course, is censorship, and two is any kind of trampling of the First Amendment, the freedom of speech. Folks, when I get to the White House, there are going to be so many changes on this front. Everything I said is going to move us to in the direction we need to be. And these things must happen. If they don't happen, America is going to go down a rabbit hole that it won't be able to recover from. Okay, folks. Finally, I'm going to finish there with the two serious topics. Finally, I'll just finish up by saying we are well underway with our comedian campaign fundraising tour. We have started to put comedy club bookings up on our website. We have started putting performing arts center bookings up on our website. And I'm also available for hundreds and hundreds of private speaking events, and those will start going up on our website too. We're going to be focusing on the universities across America. We have a lot of venues, a lot of activity coming, and I hope that we meet somewhere along the campaign trail. I'm looking forward to shaking your hand, answering your questions, and greeting you. And folks, until we meet again, all the best and good luck in the raffle.